Welcome to Sunday's edition of Cracking the Cryptic, where we're going to have our second edition of a new series that we've started on the channel, where we sort of do introductions to how to solve variant Sudoku. So the first one was last Sunday, and we're doing one again this Sunday. This puzzle on screen is called Sequence Sudoku. It's by Thomas Fink, and this comes from the recent German Qualifier, which was a test, online test basically, to qualify for the German team for the World Sudoku Championship. And we have it on good authority that the puzzles in that test were, what was the word used? Otherworldly in terms of their quality. So if you go and have a look at that test, you'll see some of the authors of well-known names in the world of Sudoku. But we're going to have a look at this one, and apparently this is another of these puzzles that's a great introduction to variant Sudoku. Now, we can assure you that any puzzle that we try and solve for Cracking the Cryptic has basically been through extensive testing, so we know it's going to be awesome. And the challenge, I think, with having a puzzle for this series that should appear on the channel is, how do you ensure in a more basic puzzle that all of the beauty and logic you'd expect to see on the channel is still there, and that is a challenge. You know, we get sent so many absolutely impossible puzzles that do undoubtedly have a beautiful logic in them, but the trouble is it takes Mark and I an hour and a half to find the logic. But to achieve that in a relatively more straightforward puzzle is a real skill. So well done to Thomas for managing to do that here. At least I hope I'm going to be able to get through this puzzle. This would be a disaster if I can't now. Anyway, do we have anything else to mention? No, just really, if you do enjoy this, we have lots more of this on the channel, so please consider subscribing. We'd really appreciate it. And with that, why don't I read out the rules? So quite simple rules today. We've got normal Sudoku rules apply. Digits along a grey line must increase by the same amount in the same direction. So I think what that's telling us, if we look at this grey line, for example, we have to figure out what one of the ends of the line is. So let's imagine that this square here was a 1. Now, this line must increase by the same amount in the same direction. So as this is a 1, it's the lowest digit in the Sudoku, so we can't go. We can't be increasing from this direction, so we're going to be increasing from the 1 up the line, and as we increase we could do that, I think. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That would be a legitimate way of filling the line. Or we could increase it in steps of 2, 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. That would also be a legitimate way of filling the line. What we couldn't do is 1, 4, 7, because now we've got a big problem here. We're going to have to make this a 10, and we can't put 10s in the puzzle. So that would be one way of filling the line. Now, I think on the shorter lines, we're going to have an awful lot more difficulty. Let's look at this short line here. Let's say this square is an 8, just for the sake of example. Let's now consider, once it's an 8, we know the line can't be increasing to 9 and then 10. So we know that this is the low point on the line, and we're going to have to go up in steps to reach the 8 here. So we could go, now I'm going to embarrass myself, I think we could go 4, 6 and then 8. That would be stepping up by the same amount each time. Or we could go 4, 7, 6, 6, 7, 8, I think. Now, is anything else possible? It might be, actually. Let's think about that. What if we deduct 3 each time? Yeah, 2, 5, 8. That's increasing sequentially by the same amount each time. So these are the things we're going to have to figure out as we work through the puzzle. But do have a go. One of the things about Cracking the Cryptic is you can always play the puzzles, and the way to play is to click the link under the video as usual. And now I get to play Let's Get Cracking. And well, there are two things. I can say something very basic about this line, but my eyes are drawn actually to box 1 here. And the reason they're drawn to box 1 is that we can see that the 2 lines in box 1 entirely fill the box. So we know exactly what the sort of set of digits is that we need to put on these 2 lines. And that's immediately interesting. And in fact, I can see exactly now how this box works. And I think the way to understand that is to think about the long line. And I think looking at this line's actually helped me here. But let's have a think about this line and how it could look. And the thing is, yeah, so maybe the thing to ask is, does this line increase in steps of 1 or something else? Or steps of 2, 3, 4, 5 or 6, although I think we're going to quickly run out of room. Let's start with, can it increase in steps of 1? And the answer is absolutely it can. But there are certain ways that it can't increase in steps of 1. If, for example, it increased in steps of 1 like this, that's absolutely fine in terms of Sudoku, but it is not fine for this other line, because this other line now has to be made up of the digits 1, 7, 8 and 9. And there is no way to fill those in a sequence which is stepping up by the same amount. So that tells us that if we do use steps of 1 over here, we've got to leave something behind that is valid. In other words, this will also have to be a series of 1-steppers, like 1, 2, 3, 4, or 6, 7, 8, 9. Now the problem there is rather beautiful. These 3 and this 7 are immediately quite powerful, because if we do try and fill this line with one set of digits that are extreme within the set of digits 1 to 9, so let's think about what that means. We know that this line is either 6, 7, 8, 9 if we're in one stepping land, or 1, 2, 3, 4. Now we don't know which, and we don't know in which order, but we know it would have to be one of those things. So this line is either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or it's 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 in that situation. But whichever way round we do this, it's really clever. Let's say we start with 1 here. 1, 2, 3. Whoops! We've got a problem. If we start from here, 1, 2, 3, we've still got the same problem. So if we start with a low digit in either of these squares and we're 1 stepping along the line, it always breaks at the corner. We always get a 3 in the corner, and that 3 in the corner isn't losing its religion, it's just wrong. Now what about if we start with a 9 in one of those two places? Well, again, we're going to have to go 8, 8, and we're going to end up with a 7 in the corner, and that's also going to break. So in fact, there is no way that the lines in this box are 1-stepping lines. And once we're in the realms of 2-stepping lines, and we have a 5-step line to fill, how are we going to fill this up if we have to step 2 digits each time? Well, the only way is if we fill this line with all of the odd digits. So now we know that one of those squares, we know that's a 1, 9 pair. This is a 3, 7 pair, and there's a 5 in the corner. Oh, in fact, look, no, we can do much better than this, because this 3 and 7 are going to disambiguate the 3, 7 pair we've got. So the 7 has to go here, the 3 has to go here, the 1 and the 9 are then filled in to make sure this line is increasing in the right direction by the same amount each time. And this is going to be the even digits, which are 2, 4, 6 and 8. We have to remember we have to step up, so we're going to have to put the low digit on one end of the line, and it's then going to go 2, 4, 6, 8 or 2, 4, 6, 8. So these are a 2, 8 pair, and this is a 4, 6 pair. And that's a really, really lovely start. Now, where shall we look next? This line or this line look a little bit interesting. Sudoku, don't ever forget to do Sudoku in a Sudoku puzzle. You will often find, especially if you're watching my videos on Cracking the Cryptic, that I quite frequently forget Sudoku. But this line now, in fact the same is true of that line, I can see that there's some sort of parity thing we're going to have to think about. Because this line can't have more than one odd digit on it. And if it can't have more than one odd digit, I want to say it must be a sequence line that's sort of for... Oh no, hang on. No, this line is important because the odd digit it's missing is a 1. So yes, okay, this is a problem. Yeah, this is a problem for this line. What is on this line? Can it have 1 on it? I don't think it can. Because if it's got 1 on it, it can't be a 1-stepping line, because that's going to have a 3 on it, and there's a 3 here. If it's a 2-stepping line, then we're going to have loads of odd digits on it. That's not going to work. If it's a 3-stepping line, then the next digit will be fine. But then we're going to add an odd digit to an even digit, and we're going to end up with an odd digit again, and that's going to be, so it's going to go 4, 7. This is a simpler way of seeing that. That's not going to work, and we can't go 1, 5, 9 because that's not going to work. So you can't put 1 on this line. So this line is entirely made up of even digits, and therefore it's a two-stepping line. So there's a 1 over here now, and there's a 1 in one of these 3 cells. Now, if you're new to the channel, you may be wondering why I've pencil marked these 2 squares in a different way to these squares. And that's because it's very important when you solve difficult Sudokus to distinguish between box logic and cell logic. Now, let's look at this square. I've pencil marked this with a 4 or a 6 in the center, and that's because I want to remember that this cell can only be a 4 or a 6. When I put a digit in the corner of a cell, what I'm saying is within this box, the 1 must be in one of those 2 cells. So I'm not saying that this, I've got no idea really what all the options are for this cell. If I wanted to list all the options, I would change to central pencil marking, and I would fill in 1, 2, 4, 6, and 8. But I don't really like doing that. Some people do. Mark, pencil mark, as we call him, does enjoy that method, but I don't. I find it too confusing after a while. So I tend to limit my pencil marks to a maximum of 4 digits in a cell when we're centrally notating, and then corner marks, they're fine. What I won't do is, let's say in this box, you can see 9 at the moment is in one of 6 positions, and I won't do that. That's overkill. I want to find situations where a digit is locked into one of 2 places, preferably within a box. Sometimes one of 3 places I will also do, but what I won't do is one of 4 places, except on very rare occasions, very special occasions. I think the Miracle Sudoku, I might have used pencil marks in the corner for 4 cells, but yeah, you won't find me doing that very often. So let's have a think about this line then. This line has definitely got an extreme digit on it. Yes, and we're 2-stepping. So this line is either 2, 4, 6 in one direction, or it's 4, 6, 8 in one direction. So it always has 4 and 6 on it. Yes, and that's exactly, so you see, I just did that by instinct. Let's just put the 4 6s in the corner. So there's now, so now there's definitely 4 and 6 on this line by Sudoku. Because there's a 4 and 6 up here, and there's a 4 and 6 here, we've got to put 4 and 6 on this line, which makes me want to put 4, 5, and 6 onto it. Yeah, in fact, that is what it is, isn't it? And I say that because, look, if we're going to say that this line, which we know has 4 and 6 on it, which are 2 apart, so one possibility is that this is a 2-stepping line. But if it is a 2-stepping line, its other digit will be even. And that's a problem, because all even digits are now basically placed in this row. We cannot place 2 or 8 on this line. So we must make this line a 1-stepping line, and it must be 4, 5, 6. And therefore these squares, which are the central squares in 2 instances of lines, are 3s, 7s, and 9s. Aha! Well, you can't put 9 in the middle of a line, because remember, these lines are always increasing towards one end or the other. So if we did put 9 in the middle, that would be suggesting that, that would be suggesting that one end of the line is higher than 9. Well, that's not going to work in a Sudoku puzzle. So 9 must go in one cell. And we've got an odd digit in the middle of a line, one of which is a 7. One of which is a 7. Yeah. Yeah, oh, yes, yes. Yeah, that's beautiful. Right, this is very, very beautiful. Let's think about that. One of these digits is a 7, and it's in the middle of its line. Therefore, one of these lines has a higher digit than a 7 on it. Now, there are only 2 options, therefore. One of the digit that's higher than 7 is either an 8 or it's a 9. But this 9 sees every or those three ends of these two lines. There's only one more end that could be a 9, it's this one, and that sees a 9 as well. So there is no 9 on the edges of these lines, so there must be an 8. And therefore the line that has a 7 on it, because it has an 8 on it, it must be a 6, 7, 8 line because it's a one-stepping line. And then, this is very clever, now we've got a 6 looking at these two line ends. So the line that is 6, 7, 8 must have a 6 in one of those two positions. Now this is outrageous. Me having just gone on and told you about how I pencil mark within a box. I'm being very naughty here. I'm pencil marking a 6 in the corner across a box. And that's because I'm so excited basically about the fact I've worked out one of these squares has to be a 6. And I'm colouring it to make myself aware that this is normal, not normal corner pencil marking. I'm trying to draw my attention to that. So one of these is a 6, one of these is a 7, one of these is an 8 now. Yeah, okay, and now look at the top line, which can't have an 8 on it anymore. So this line is 2, 4, 6. You can't put 2 in the middle of it. So it's either 2, 4, 6 that way. Oh, the middle digit's always a 4. However we do this, it's always going 2, 4, 6. So that middle digit's always a 4. Sorry, I should have seen that immediately and failed. And we've got a 2, 6 pair. So these digits are 1, 5 and 8 in some order. And we know that 8 belongs to the 7 line. And then the 1 or the 5 will belong to the 3 line. Which means the 3 line is a two-stepping line. Because the digit, let's say this was the 3. We know this digit is not the 8, therefore it's a 1 or a 5. So it's a two-stepping line. Which means that this digit, if this was the 3, would have to be a 1 or a 5 as well. Okay, so we don't know more than... So we know there's a 1 or a 5 and a 6 in these two squares. But, unless I'm missing something, I know that that's not 8, because I know the 8's in one of those two positions. Oh, okay, so that was nearly good, but not quite. What about those squares? They are 1 and 8 now, because yes, that makes sense, because I just deleted 8 from this line. So these squares have got to be 2, 7 and 9. Okay, and this is, you can see this is drying up. The logic over here is drying up, except this square. This is a 4, 5, 6 triple. I've done exactly the same here and not thought about what's the middle digit in the sequence. Well, the middle digit will be the middle digit, so we can place the 5 there. And this line either goes 4, 5, 6 or 4, 5, 6. But if we look down these columns now, you can see it, unless and until we get more information about these lines, we're not going to be able to disambiguate anything in box 3. So I don't really want to devote too much attention there. I feel like I want to check this line in column 1 because I think this line is a similar line to this line because it sees so many odd digits. Yeah, and if we think about the odd digit that could be on this line, it's a 9. And the 9 would have to go at one end of the line because it can't go in the middle, or there would have to be a higher digit than a 9 on the line. So if this was a 9, how could this line develop from there? It couldn't be a one-stepping line because 9, let me show you, 9, 8, 7, that would clash with the 7s, look, so that's no good. So let's not do that. So we'd have to go two-stepping line. No, that immediately goes to 7, that doesn't work. 6 isn't going to work because we're not going to have a digit to place here because we're going to go 3 and then this will have to be a 0. And although the software allows us to enter 0, the rules of Sudoku don't. So this line is also oddless. It's an oddless line, and that means that the digits on it must all be even, which is exactly the same as we found up here. So that means the 9 on this line, on this in this column is in one of two places, which I'm sure is very important somehow. in a way which I can't quite see yet. If this, oh, hang on, yeah, well, I've got two things I think we need to think about now. I don't know which order to do them in. The 9 is in one of those two positions. Now, if the 9 is here, 8, 7 wouldn't work, so we'd have to be, so we'd have to go 9, 6, 3 perhaps. I'm not sure if that works or not. Or, oh, I suppose 9, 5, 1 is also possible. Ah, okay, so I don't think I will look further at 9. So what I've just noticed though is that this line has an extra cell on it. And because we know this is a two-stepping line, because of the options we've got to put on it, they're all even digits, we know that this must also be even. And now, yeah, so now we can actually fill in some things on this line. We know one of the two ends must be a 2, because it must go 2, 4, 6, 8 in one direction or the other. So these two squares are not 4s and 6s, and these two squares are not 2s and 8s. So now I'm seeing a 2, 8 pair in this column. So right. This is actually this is beautiful. This is beautiful, and it's a good example of how to solve variant Sudoku. There was somebody who said the other day, why do we colour so much in puzzles? Well, it's because it's useful to colour, and it's very hard sometimes to keep the effect of colouring in your mind. Now, you can do it here in your mind. This is a simple example of how using colours will help you solve a Sudoku. Let me show you how. This square here, we know is a 2 or an 8, but we don't know what it is. I'm just going to label it blue for a moment, because we know that whatever it is not the same as this one. So this one I'm going to make green. And now you can see that this blue, whatever digit this is, must be repeated here. This is also blue. And therefore, and we know that this line, whatever this is, this must be the same now as green. So we get some colouring. And why does this matter? Well, you can see, if you look carefully now, we've actually figured out something rather beautiful, which is that purple is in fact blue. And these are the sentences we get to say to ourselves, and they bring a smile. Why do I say purple is blue? Well, because of the colouring, because I know those two digits are the same, and crucially, they are not the same as green. This digit is the only place now that I can place blue in column 1 of the Sudoku. So this digit becomes blue, loses its ability to be purple, which was recording where 9 could go in the column. So this now has to be the 9. This has to be the 2 or the 8 to correspond to its blue friends. And now, what does that mean about this line? Presumably something very important. So I can see green has to be down here, but I don't know which cell it's in. So, do we have a way of knowing which way round the 2s and the 8s go? Or have we got something else we can say about this line? The answer to that is... Right, I can say something about this line. I'm going to say something about this digit, which I think is a little bit interesting. If we think about the nature of a 3-cell line with this rule set, it doesn't matter what the step is from this digit to this digit. It's either going to be an odd number of steps, or it's going to be an even number of steps. And because the lines are always stepping the same amount each time, that means that to get from this digit to this digit, we're either adding 2 even numbers, or we're adding 2 odd numbers together. And if you add 2 odd numbers together, what do you get? You always get an even number. So that means to get from this digit to this digit must always be the same parity as this digit, which is even. Now, the moment this is even, look, we can say 2 things. We can say, firstly, it must be a 4 or a 6 because it can't be 2 or 8 anymore. Secondly, all the evens in this box now have been used up. So this square can no longer be a 6. And therefore, we knew one of these was a 6 from my pencil marking. It must be this one, which we know goes with 7 and 8 on its line. We can get rid of the 1s here. Oh, so we still don't know. Ah, yeah, but that's a 3 now, of course, because it's not a 7. We can lose the colouring for this cell, that's and this one, to be honest. I don't think we need that anymore. And we know that this now... Ah, yeah, okay. This is beautiful, because what do we know now about the parity of this digit? And the answer is it's O for orange and odd. This must be an odd digit, simply by virtue of the fact that all the even digits have been used up in box 4. Now, if it's an odd digit, how is this stepping from ones? It's stepping in either 1s or 3s. Well, you can see, if this is 8, then in order to get to 4 or 6, the only way it can step naturally is with a 1 step. So it's going to have to go 8, 7, 6, and that's going to repeat 7 in the column. So this must, I think, be a 2, 2, 3, 4. It's the only way it can go. It can't get to 6 without 2-stepping. And we know it can't 2-step because that would be an even digit. That's really lovely. It's just a lovely puzzle, this. So that's 2, that's 3, that's 4, that's 4, that's 6 by Sudoku. Now, this 2 is telling us the nature of blue. So blue is 2. That means green is the other thing. It's 8. This line now you can see must go in 2 steps up towards the 8. And all of a sudden we can place 9 in this column. We can place... We need 1s, 5s and 7s to complete this column. And therefore down here at the bottom we need 3s, 6s and 8s. And down here we need 1s and 5s. Okay. And now I'm wondering about the long line. That digit is interesting. In fact, we'll look at this digit from a colouring perspective again, because these two digits are different. This is either 135 or 531. So let's make that digit yellow, and this digit, running out of colours here, I'll make this digit red. And we know that yellow and red are different. So, can this digit ever be a 1 or a 5? No, it can't. Because if it's 1 or 5, it's going to rule itself out of a crucial square where it needs to go, because one of these must be 1 and one of these must be 5. So, this digit now, not only can it not be 2, 3 or 6, it can't be 1 or 5. So it gets awarded a 4-cell pencil mark. It's 4, 7, 8 or 9, but it's on a very long line. Now, if that's 9, 9, 8, 7 won't work, so we couldn't be a 1-step line. It would have to be a 2-step line, and it would have to be all the odd digits. 9, 7, 5, 3, 1. 9, 7. I can't see what's wrong with that. 9, 7, 5, 3, 1. Okay, I can't rule that out, sorry. If it's 8, it's not got to see... okay. If this is 8, what on earth are we going to do with it? It's a 5-step line, 5-cell line, so it can't step down in steps of 2 or it'll reach negative numbers. So it would have to step in steps of 1, and it's going to go 8, 7, 6, and this 6 will clash. So it's not 8. Now if it's 7, yeah, again, if it's 7, it's got to step in steps of 1 or it'll drop off into negative numbers. So this has to be a 6, and that won't work either. Now, can we get rid of 4? If it's 4, it's got to go upwards, and it's got to go in steps of 1, and this is a 6. This is very lovely as well. So this diagonal line, in fact, cannot support a 4 there, so that is a 9. We've worked out already this can't be a 1-stepping line because the 7s would clash. So it's a 2-stepping line, and we get all the odd digits on the line. Now that, presumably, that's beautiful. That gets me a 7 here. It's the only place for 7 in box 4. It gets me No 3 here. It gets me a 1 and an 8 over here. And probably lots more before. Yeah, the 1 and 5 at the bottom as well, they get filled in. Which I'm sure is very, very important in a way I can't quite see. So we've only got 2 more lines to use. This line can't have many high digits on it. So can we put 8 on this line is the question I'm wondering about. If it's got 8 on it, it can't be a 1-stepping line or it'll need 7. It can't be a 2-stepping line or it'll need 6. It can't be a 3-stepping line or it'll need 5, and 840 won't work because 0 is not a valid digit. So there is an 8 in one of these 2 cells. Now all the high digits are used in the first 6 cells, so this is from 1, 2, 3 and 4, which means it's a 1-stepping line. Now if it's a 1-stepping line and we're selecting 2 of the digits from 1, 2, 3 and 4, 2 and 3 must definitely be on the line, and you can see immediately these 3s are quite useful then. That's got to be 3. And that's 3 is the middle digit of a 1-stepping line, so we can no longer put 1 on the line. So these squares are from 2 and 4. Yes. Okay, and this is a nice trick as well that comes up a lot in Sudoku, but you should look out for it. Look, we've got 4s in these 2 cells, and you've got 4s in those 2 cells. So these 4s are aligning in their columns. So the 4s are in one of 2 positions in box 3, one of 2 positions in box 6. So immediately we can ask where 4 should go in the column between these 4s, because it can't go in any of those 6 cells anymore. So the 4 in column 8 has to be in one of these 2 cells, and it can't be in row 7, look. So the 4 is forced downwards to here on a line. Now the line here is interesting, look, because it must have a lower digit on it, and that lower digit can't be 1 or 3. So that tells us one of those 2 squares is a 2, and therefore it's a 2-stepping line, so the other digit is a 6. And now we repeat this exercise that we did before with greys. Let's delete my greys. Hang on a minute. Delete the greys, and let's look at 2s instead. 2s have to go into those cells. So again, I'm now going to ask the question, where does 2 go in column 8? Because these 2s are aligning in columns 7 and 9. None of those squares can be a 2. The only position for 2 in column 8 is now here. So this column's now got a lot of digits in it. Oh yeah, look. Now we have to do Sudoku. Finally, we have to resort to Sudoku. What's this digit? Well, from its column, it can only be 6, 7 or 9, but from the row, it can't be 6 or 9. So this is 7. And that's a 6. Oh, well, I was about to say that's a 6, 9 pair, but one of those 2 squares is a 6. So that's a 9, that's a 6. And that column is now done. And we need 5s, 7s and 8s to complete box number 9. 5 must be in one of those 2 squares. So again, you see I put the corner pencil mark in case it helps. 5 is now in one of these 2 cells. I can't see if that's going to matter. I've actually used all my lines now, I'm noticing. So we must be able to do something from now on using the power of Sudoku. And that's a bit worrying. So how do we do that? I suppose, oh, I see. We know these 2 squares are a 1-8 pair now. So again, look, the 1s are aligning now in column 4 and column 5. So when we ask where the 1 can go in column 6, we know it can't go in the top 6 cells. And in fact, it can't go in these 2 cells either. So that cell there is just a naked single. That's a 1. Where does 4 go in the middle box? Well, this 4 tells us it's got to be here. So these are now a 2-3 pair, and there's a 3 here, and there's a 3 and a 2. Yes, so Sudoku is now helping us. This is good. Now the bottom 2 cells of this column have to be 6 and 9, and there's a 9 here, so that's a 9 and that's a 6. Tidy our pencil marks away, and see if we now, this 6 is giving us a 6 and a 2, which is giving us the 2 and the 4, which is giving us the 4 and the 6. Aha! This is good. 4 in this box now. This is a trick as well. It's a very simple trick, but you can see there are 4 digits, 4 examples of 4, all looking into box 8. Whenever you get 4 digits looking into a box, you can always place that digit if you're careful with your Sudoku. And you can see here, this is the only place 4 can go. So that's forced. This, where does 7 go in row 8 now? It can't go here by Sudoku. It's only got one place, which is there. That finishes the 7 and the 9 at the top. It converts our 5 7 8s just to being to just being 5 8s, which means these two squares are now 1s and 9s. We can place those by Sudoku. The 1s and the 5s get filled in, the 5 gets filled in, the 8 gets filled in. And we might be doing quite well now. It's going to be disappointing if we can't finish it. I will admit that at this stage. Let's have a look down this column. We need 1s, 5s, 7s and 8s. So these squares, I think, have to be 5s, 7s and 8s. Oh, you know what I've missed here? I've missed something, but it's rather good. This 5 is on my line, so I now know this two-stepping line must start with a 1. So that's a 1, that's a 5, that's a 1, that's an 8. Aha! Now that might help. This column needs 2, 3 and 8, so that's got to be an 8. That makes that a 6, that a 5, that an 8. This is no longer 6. What else did I say we needed down here? 2s and 3s. Okay, we can do that. 2, 3, 3, 8, 5, 7. And if we haven't made a ricket, we can click tick, and that's how to solve sequence Sudoku. So I hope that that's useful. What I tried to do there was to go through it more slowly than usual. But as I say, I hope that's something that occasionally even our regular viewers would like to see on the channel. If you don't want to see it, drop a comment in, let me know. If you do and you find it useful, drop a comment in and let me know. I do enjoy the comments, especially when they're kind. And thanks so much for watching. And thanks very much to Thomas for a very cool puzzle. We'll be back later with another edition of Cracking the Cryptic.